All right, so have you ever, ordered something online, and you're really excited for it to arrive?
Yeah.
And it's something that maybe is easily damaged, like a nice new paper planner, one of those really nice ones with the thick paper,
Follow.
and then it finally shows up at your door and you open the package all excited, and then
Ah.
disappointment.
Ugh.
It's bent or warped, or the pages are all stuck together, because it got damp somewhere along the way.
I can picture it. Yeah, it's like the worst.
It is the worst. It's like all that anticipation just deflated, and it just kind of ruins the whole experience.
Yeah, it totally
Yeah.
does. Especially if you rely on planners like for work or keeping life organized, or even, for creative stuff like journaling or sketching.
Exactly. It's
Ah.
such a bummer. So for this deep dive, we're going to take a look at how one company, Lion Paper, tackles this moisture problem head on. They're known for making high-quality planners, and they really seem to go the extra mile to make sure their products reach customers in perfect condition.
Yeah, they've actually shared quite a bit of detail about their processes. And it's fascinating stuff. I mean, it's more complex than you might think to keep paper pristine, through all the different environments and handling during shipping.
I bet. So what's the mission for us today? What are we hoping to learn from all this information?
Well, the goal is to really understand the nitty-gritty of how they prevent moisture damage during shipping. What are the specific strategies and techniques they use to protect those planners from humidity, temperature swings, you name it.
Okay, so it's like a behind-the-scenes look at the battle against moisture in the paper planner world.
Exactly. Because when those pages arrive crisp and perfect,
Yeah.
it's not by accident.
Yeah.
There's a lot of thought and effort that goes into making that happen.
Okay, well, let's get right into it. So first things first, why is moisture such a big deal for paper products in the first place? I mean, it seems pretty obvious, but
Well, think about paper, right?
yeah.
Even though it's processed, it still has those fibers that make it super absorbent.
Right, like a sponge almost.
Exactly. And Lion Paper stresses this point, like even the slightest bit of moisture can make paper warp discolor, get all wavy and even cause those pages to stick together.
Yeah, and I guess it's not just about spills or rain, it's the humidity, right? Like just the moisture in the air itself.
Oh yeah, big time. They actually highlight coastal regions as like prime examples of high humidity environments, where it's like 80% humidity or more in the summer.
Oh yeah, you can just feel it in the air. It's so thick. And imagine a package planner sitting in that for days or even weeks.
It's a recipe for disaster.
Mm.
And then there's condensation to think about, like those temperature changes a package goes through during shipping.
Oh, right. Like from a warm warehouse to a cold truck back to a warm delivery van.
Yeah, all those fluctuations cause moisture to condense inside the packaging.
Huh.
Like when you have a cold drink on a hot day and water droplets form on the glass.
Yeah, sneaky condensations, like the moisture is appearing out of thin air.
And of course, the longer a package is in transit, going across the country or
Mhm.
even overseas.
The more chances there are for those temperature and humidity changes.
Exactly. It's a gauntlet of potential moisture exposure.
Lion Paper actually shared a real-world example of this happening, right?
They did.
Mm.
They mentioned a U.S. retailer who started getting a ton of customer complaints about warped and stuck pages in their planners.
Ooh, it's not good.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was hurting their brand and leading to more returns and bad reviews.
So it was hitting their bottom line, too.
For sure. But the good news is Lion Paper stepped in and helped them make some key changes to their packaging.
And what happened?
They saw a huge drop in those moisture-related complaints, like 80% less.
Wow, that's impressive.
It is. It shows that these moisture protection strategies actually work. They're not just theoretical.
Okay, so let's dig into those strategies. What's the first line of defense in Lion Paper's approach?
So they call it advanced moisture barrier packaging. And it's all about creating multiple layers of protection around the planner.
Like a moisture shield.
Exactly. And they don't just use any old materials. They're very specific about what works best. So first they put the planner in a poly bag.
Polybag. Okay, so that's...
It's like a sealed bag made from polyethylene, which is a type of plastic that's really good at blocking moisture.
Got it. So that's the first layer?
Yep. Then for bulk shipments, they add another layer with vapor-proof wrappers.
Okay.
And finally, the whole thing goes into a multi-layered carton.
So they're really wrapping those planners up tight.
They are. And these cartons, they often have like a moisture-resistant inner layer or coating.
Yep.
So even if the boxes are in a humid warehouse, they're less likely to absorb moisture.
It's like creating a little dry zone for each planner.
Exactly. And they even had to adjust their packaging for ocean freight,
Mm.
because those shipments are exposed to the sea air for so long.
Oh, yeah. I bet that's a whole other level of humidity.
It is. They mentioned a European wholesaler who was getting discolored planners because of the long ocean voyage.
Makes sense? So how did they fix that?
They went with double-layered polyethylene packaging, basically like a Super Duty poly bag.
Ah, so double the protection.
Exactly. And it worked. They saw a massive reduction in moisture exposure, like 95%.
Wow, so that really shows they're thinking about the specific challenges of each shipping method.
Absolutely. They're not just using a one-size-fits-all approach.
Okay, so we've got the super packaging. Now what's next?
Well, on top of that, they also use desiccants.
Desiccants. Those are those little packets you find in shoe boxes and stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. The ones that say do not eat.
Right. The ones that make you wonder what they are, but you just toss them aside.
Yep. Well, those are actually little moisture-absorbing heroes.
So how do they work?
They're filled with silica gel, which is like a super absorbent material. Lion paper says 1 gram of silica gel can suck up 3 grams of moisture.
Wow, that's a lot. And they put these packets inside every planner package.
They do. It's like having a tiny dehumidifier in there.
Makes sense. And I bet those are especially important for shipments going to like tropical places or coastal areas?
Oh yeah, definitely. Anywhere with high humidity. And they have a great example of this. They mentioned a distributor shipping to Indonesia, which is super humid. They were having a lot of problems with moisture damage.
Right.
But once they started using Lion Paper's desiccant packaging system, they saw a 60% drop in returns due to moisture.
That's huge. So those little packets really do make a big difference.
They really do. And sometimes they even hang bigger desiccant packs inside the shipping containers themselves.
Like a moisture shield for the whole container.
Exactly. They're covering all their bases.
Okay, so we've got the advanced packaging, the moisture-absorbing packets. What else are they doing to keep those planners dry?
So the next step is all about sealing and insulation.
Okay, what do they do exactly?
Well, first they make sure each planner is sealed up tight in its packaging. They use heat sealing to make it airtight.
So no sneaky damp air can get in.
Exactly. It's like a fortress against moisture. And then they add insulation.
Insulation, like for warmth.
Well, it's actually more about regulating temperature. They use stuff like foam and bubble wrap to create a buffer against those rapid temperature swings that happen during shipping.
Oh, right, because those temperature changes can cause condensation, even if the air outside isn't that humid.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And they had a client who's having this exact problem with holiday planners.
Ah, what happened?
Well, they were shipping these planners to different warehouses, and the temperature and humidity conditions were all over the place.
Making it a condensation nightmare.
Yep, and it was causing a lot of moisture damage. But when they switched to foam-lined boxes, the problem went away.
Because the foam helped keep the temperature inside more stable?
Exactly. It prevented those wild swings that were causing the condensation.
So it's not just about keeping moisture out, it's also about managing the environment inside the package.
Exactly. It's a double-pronged approach.
Now, Lion Paper also takes it a step further, right? They actually control the environment in their own facilities, too.
Oh, yeah, they're very serious about climate control. Their warehouses are kept at a humidity level below 50%.
Wow, so it's like a desert in there.
Pretty much. They want to make sure the planners are starting their journey in a nice, dry environment.
And how do they make sure the humidity stays that low?
They have these hygrometer systems that constantly monitor the humidity levels.
So it's like a high-tech weather station for their warehouse?
Exactly. And if the humidity starts to creep up, they can address it right away.
No moisture's getting past them?
Nope. And they mentioned that same U.S. retailer was also having problems with moisture damage during storage before the planners even shipped.
Oh, wow. So it wasn't just a shipping problem.
No, but once they started storing their planners in Lion Paper's climate-controlled warehouse, the problem was solved.
So it's really about controlling the environment at every stage of the process.
Absolutely. From storage to shipping.
And speaking of shipping, they're pretty picky about who they work with too, right?
Oh yeah, they definitely prefer carriers that offer climate-sensitive shipping options.
Like FedEx and UPS.
Exactly. Those companies have more control over the temperature and humidity during transit.
So it reduces the risk of condensation.
Yep. And for those long international shipments, especially by sea, they have special solutions with extra moisture protection.
So they've thought about everything.
They really have. And the choice of carrier can make a huge difference. They shared a story about a distributor in the Middle East who was having terrible luck with planner warping during air freight.
How bad was it?
They were seeing damage rates of up to 20%.
Ouch.
Yeah. But when they switched to climate-controlled shipping with Lion Paper's guidance, their damage rates dropped to under 2%.
Wow, talk about a turnaround.
It's amazing what a difference the right shipping method can make.
Okay, so we've covered packaging desiccants,
Right.
climate control, careful shipping. But there's one more piece to the puzzle, right?
You got quality control and testing.
So how do they make sure all these strategies are actually
Well,
working?
before they ship anything out, they put their packaging and methods to the test. They simulate different transit conditions like high humidity, temperature swings, you name it.
Like a little moisture obstacle course for the planners?
Exactly.
Hmm.
And they monitor how the planners hold up. Based on the results, they can tweak their packaging or methods to make sure everything's bulletproof.
So they're constantly refining their process.
Yep. They're not just assuming things will be fine, they're proactively testing and making adjustments.
And they had an example of this, right, with their new luxury planner line.
Yeah, they did. Before launching it globally, they sent trial shipments to some notoriously humid regions.
To see how the packaging would perform.
Exactly. And based on those trials, they made some changes that boosted their moisture protection by 30%.
Smart move. It's better to catch those problems before they reach the customers.
Definitely. And on top of the testing, they also use technology to monitor humidity levels.
Oh, how do they do that?
They put little data loggers inside some shipments.
Data loggers. What are those?
They're like tiny sensors that record the humidity throughout the entire journey.
Oh, wow. So they can see exactly what those planners experience in transit.
Yep, they get a full humidity report.
Mhm.
And they also have moisture sensors in their storage areas.
So they can catch any potential problems before the planners even leave the warehouse.
Exactly. It's like an early warning system for moisture.
And they mentioned another company that benefited from this technology, right?
They did. A stationary brand used Lion Paper's moisture sensors to track humidity during their shipments.
And what did they learn?
Well, they got a lot of valuable data about the conditions their products were facing. And using that data, they were able to optimize their packaging and reduce damage.
So it's all about using data to make informed decisions.
Exactly. It's a data-driven approach to moisture protection.
Okay, so it's clear that Line Paper takes this stuff seriously. They've got the specialized packaging, the desiccants, the climate control, the rigorous testing, the data monitoring.
It's a full-on commitment to keeping those planners dry.
They even said it themselves, right, that moisture protection is essential for a premium customer experience.
They did. They emphasized that a damaged planner is a bad look for everyone involved.
Yeah, it just ruins the whole experience.
So they're really dedicated to that flawless delivery.
And they use all these methods to make it happen.
Exactly. They're not leaving anything to chance.
So to wrap up our little deep dive into the world of moisture-proof planners,
We've learned that it's way more complex than just throwing a planner in a box.
that's like a whole science.
It is. There's the polyethylene packaging, the silica gel packets, the climate control, the testing, the data analysis.
And the strategic choice of shipping partners.
It's all connected.
And it all comes down to making sure that planner arrives in perfect condition.
Exactly. Because a happy customer is a dry customer.
Well said. And it makes you think about all the other things we take for granted, all the products that show up at our doorstep in pristine condition.
Right.
There's probably a whole lot of unseen effort going into protecting them from moisture and other hazards.
I bet. So next time you get a package, think about all the steps it took to get there in one piece.
Exactly. It's a whole hidden world of logistics and careful planning.
And it's all thanks to the unsung heroes of moisture protection.
I mean, it really makes you wonder what other seemingly simple products require this level of care and attention to detail just to get to us safe and sound.
Right, like what are the lengths people go to protect those delicate items?
Exactly. Like maybe those fancy chocolates or those sensitive electronics or even,
Oh, or like rare books and artwork.
yeah, the possibilities are endless. It's amazing to think about.
It really is. There's a whole world of hidden effort behind the things we use every day.
So next time you unwrap a package, take a moment to appreciate the journey it took and the people who made sure it arrived in perfect condition.
Because there's a lot more to it than meets the eye.
Absolutely. All right, well, that's our deep dive for today. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. This was fun.
It was. Until next time, stay dry out there, folks.
And keep those planners pristine.
And remember, there's a whole lot of science and ingenuity going into making sure your stuff arrives in tip-top shape.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.